The hacks that I'm sharing, they don't ask you to cut carbs. They don't ask you to swear off fruit, potatoes, or even spaghetti. They show you how to eat your carbs in a way that restores insulin sensitivity and reverses diabetes while improving your energy, mood, and long-term health. I'm Robby Barbaro. I'm living with type 1 diabetes. My current A1C is 5.5%. I'm the co-author of the New York Times best-selling book, Mastering Diabetes, and I'm a 3-time Ironman triathlete. Today, I'm going to explain the science of insulin resistance, what it is, why it's a spectrum, and how it's at the root of all forms of diabetes. I'll also show you how what you eat makes you more insulin resistant or can reverse insulin resistance depending on the type of foods. And I'll give you some simple, easy hacks you can start using today to lower insulin resistance and feel back in control of your blood sugar. Type 2 diabetes and prediabetes affect over 1 billion people worldwide. Yes, I said that correctly. 1 billion with a B. That's 5 to 8 times more people than were affected less than 50 years ago in 1980. Genes don't change that quickly. This is not an issue of bad genetics. What changed wasn't genes. It was lifestyle habits. It was our environment. In 1980, there were 6,000 McDonald's restaurants. Today, there are over 41,000. But the good news is that if our environment and lifestyle created the problem, then you have the power to solve the problem. So let's dive into the actual problem. The primary problem here is insulin resistance. So maybe you've heard of that before, or maybe you haven't. Either way, let's break it down. Insulin is a hormone made in your pancreas. You can think of it as a key that opens doors to your cells for glucose to go inside the cell. Glucose is your body's preferred fuel source. It needs to get into your cells and power everything you do. Glucose is sugar. So glucose and the carbs, where it comes from, are not inherently bad. Your body wants glucose. It needs glucose to function optimally and have energy and be healthy. Insulin resistance means that your cell's doors have jammed locks. You have a working key, which is insulin, but the locks are jammed. So the key doesn't work. That's insulin resistance. And then glucose gets stuck in your blood, which is why you have high blood sugar. Over time, your body tries to solve the problem by producing more insulin. Your blood sugar gets worse, your A1C creeps up. It's just not good. And if you've been watching this long, you probably are experiencing this to some degree. Now, insulin resistance is a spectrum. It's not all or nothing. Like I said, it builds over time. On one end of the spectrum, we have someone whose insulin sensitivity is great. They can eat whole carbohydrates and their body uses them seamlessly, with insulin getting the glucose into the cells gracefully. Then there are early signs and stages of insulin resistance, which eventually become prediabetes. Here, your locks are starting to get jammed. So the doors to your cells aren't opening with the insulin you have. Your body starts making more insulin to compensate. Your fasting glucose is starting to rise. You might have energy swings and afternoon slumps or stubborn weight that you can't lose. And then type 2 diabetes is when you've been in a chronic state of insulin resistance. Your A1C creeps up even more and your doctor likely prescribes more medication. Now, it's super important to remember that this is not something like brown hair or blue eyes. You don't just have insulin resistance, black and white. It's a spectrum. It's a scale that you can slide up or down at any time based on how you are living and what you are eating. If you make just a few small changes, like the ones I'm about to share with you, you can improve your insulin sensitivity and slide back to normal. Or if you eat the wrong things, you can slide in the opposite direction, building toward diabetes. Some doctors will tell you that you will have type 2 diabetes for the rest of your life, or that you have to take medication. But that's not true, and it isn't rocket science. The things I'm going to share with you today are not complicated. Anyone can do them. But what's your starting point? You might be curious about where you are on this spectrum right now. That's really good information to have, and it also makes it easier for you to track your progress. The easiest test to give you a good baseline marker of insulin resistance is checking your fasting blood glucose level. Typically, while you are fasting overnight, your liver releases a slow and steady drip of glucose in order to keep your brain fueled through the night. And your pancreas slowly releases insulin to get that glucose into the cells. But if you are insulin resistant, then the glucose won't be able to get into your cells efficiently, and your liver will keep releasing glucose into your bloodstream. So when you wake up, your blood sugar will be high. That's why testing your fasting blood sugar shows you whether you have insulin resistance or not. If you have a finger stick glucometer or a continuous glucose monitor, you can check this tomorrow morning. When you wake up, before you eat anything or start your day, test your blood glucose. If it's below 100, then this is good news. Your cells are working normally and they are responding to insulin. If your blood glucose is between 100 to 125, then you are in the range of prediabetes. You're a little insulin resistant and your pancreas is getting into overdrive trying to get the glucose into your cells. If you're 126 or higher, then you have insulin resistance at a high level. Maybe now you're asking, what clogs the lock? If you're asking yourself that question, you're very smart. I'm about to tell you that, plus how to unclog it. The biggest culprit in jamming the lock is excess dietary fat. The problem with your burger is not the bun. It's the cheese and the fatty red meat. The fat from your food gets piled up inside your cells and eventually clogs the lock. And that's when insulin stops working. That is literally insulin resistance in action. When you eat less fat, the locks clear and the key can open the door again. Insulin starts working as it should. Insulin resistance gets lower and your blood sugar levels drop back to healthy levels. Your A1C gets back to a healthy range as well. Now, this is the moment where you might be saying, but I thought carbs cause high blood sugar. That's kind of right and that's kind of wrong. Carbs do raise blood sugar. That's literally their job. Your muscles and your brain run on glucose. But the problem comes when there's too much fat, which leads to super high blood sugar. If you eat carbs when you have insulin resistance, then you get blood sugar spikes because the glucose can't get into your cells. Carbs aren't the problem. When you are healthy and don't have insulin resistance, you can literally eat as much as you want as long as they are whole carbohydrates like whole grains, sweet potatoes, and fruit. All forms of diabetes are affected by insulin resistance. Even when you have type 1 diabetes, like me, and your body doesn't make its own insulin, you still have your best health when you are insulin sensitive. You should still be able to eat whole carbohydrates and use natural amounts of injected insulin to process and use the glucose. So every bite of food that you eat helps insulin work better or makes insulin work harder. The four main things to think about are less fat, more fiber, maximum micronutrients, and move often. The last one isn't about food, but it's incredibly important. Here's why this works. When you eat less fat, like I explained earlier, your insulin signaling starts working again, and the glucose can get into the cells in the way it is intended to. When you eat more fiber, you slow glucose absorption from the food you eat into your bloodstream, meaning that you have less of a blood glucose spike. Fiber also helps your gut microbiome to produce beneficial compounds that support your insulin sensitivity. When you maximize the micronutrients in your diet, you lower oxidative stress and inflammation, which also helps insulin work better. When you move more often, your muscles can actually absorb glucose without insulin needing to open the doors for you. So none of this requires cutting carbs. Then what does it mean? Let me explain the big picture, and then I'm going to give you 5 hacks that will help you start reversing insulin resistance immediately. What does it actually look like to eat less fat, more fiber, and maximize micronutrients? The best and simplest way to do this is to eat mostly plant-based, whole foods and make sure you're choosing low-fat foods. This means building meals around things like whole grains, potatoes, beans, lentils, fruits, and vegetables. You might have overnight oats with bananas and cinnamon for breakfast, with a sprinkle of chia seeds or a dollop of peanut butter mixed in. Or roasted portobello tacos with cilantro, lime, rice, and spicy black beans for lunch. And maybe a curried lentil dal for dinner. Can you believe you can eat all the mangoes you want? It's true. I eat multiple mangoes pretty much every single day, and it makes me very happy. Now, you know the general idea of what to do, but don't make this too confusing. I'm going to give you 5 simple hacks you can start using today to begin reversing your insulin resistance. Number 1, front load your fiber. Start your meals with fiber-rich foods. Leafy greens or non-starchy vegetables are best. So maybe that's eating a small salad or snacking on some snap peas. Remember, when you eat fiber first, it slows down how quickly glucose from your meal enters your bloodstream. That means fewer spikes, steadier energy, and less insulin needed to manage the same food. Fiber also feeds the good bacteria in your gut, and those microbes make compounds that actually improve insulin sensitivity. Number 2, go dairy-free. This is a hack because dairy products, especially cheese, cream, butter, and whole milk, are high in fat, the biggest driver of insulin resistance. When you skip dairy, you automatically lower the fat in a meal that clogs insulin's signal. Your cells respond better, insulin works more efficiently, and your blood sugar stays steady. Number 3, walk after a meal. One of the easiest, most effective hacks is to take a 10 to 15 minute walk after you eat. When you move your muscles, they start absorbing glucose from your bloodstream without needing insulin's help. That lowers your post-meal blood sugar naturally and gives your pancreas a break. And you don't need much. Even a relaxed walk around the block counts. Number 4, eat 2 meatless meals a day. Try eating 2 meals each day built entirely from plants, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. When you skip the meat, you cut way down on fat and remove all dietary cholesterol. Plus, plant-based meals are naturally higher in fiber and antioxidants, which calm inflammation and help your cells use glucose more efficiently. Number 5, eat 1 serving of beans a day. Beans are one of the most powerful foods for your blood sugar balance. They're rich in fiber, resistant starch, and plant-based protein, a trio that slows digestion, steadies glucose, and nourishes your gut microbiome. A single serving, about half a cup of lentils, black beans, chickpeas, or edamame each day can significantly improve insulin sensitivity over time. And they have what's called the second meal effect, meaning that they lower your blood sugar curve in the next meal as well. Now, I'm going to answer some commonly asked questions so that you leave this video feeling confident and prepared to take action. Because remember, if you add these 5 hacks starting today, your insulin resistance will start improving immediately. First question, won't more carbs spike my blood sugar? If you are currently spiking when you eat carbs, then that's because you're insulin resistant. So your body can't get the glucose into your cells quick enough. If you keep eating the same amount of fat, then yes, carbs will spike you because you'll stay insulin resistant. But if you lower fat and eat whole carbs, your curves flatten week by week as insulin sensitivity returns. What about protein? This is a common question if you're used to eating a lot of meat, but thankfully, it's not an issue at all. All whole plant foods have plenty of protein. Beans, lentils, edamame, fruit, vegetables, and whole grains cover your protein needs. Can I do this if I'm on insulin or medications? Yes, but pay attention. As your insulin sensitivity gets better, and be in touch with your doctor to adjust things as your needs change. When I say this stuff works immediately, I'm not kidding. If you really commit, it might work faster than you expect, and you'll find yourself having hypos if you don't lower your meds proactively. On our website, you can check out story after story of people who have used these methods to reverse insulin resistance. Take Barbara. She was living with prediabetes for 14 years and couldn't get her A1C down. After 3 months of using these diet and lifestyle changes, her insulin resistance was gone and she was back in the normal range. When Tony came to us, he had type 2 diabetes and an A1C of 10.3. When he went to his next doctor's appointment, his A1C was 5.2. He'd lost 42 pounds and gotten off insulin and metformin. Or look at David. He'd had type 2 diabetes for 10 years and his A1C was 9.5. He was 240 pounds and he wanted to get down to 175 by his next wedding anniversary. 5 months later, he'd made his weight goal. He also brought his A1C down to 5.5, out of the diabetic range, and I promise, I'm not kidding, this is a true story. He got off his metformin and lowered his cholesterol by over 100 points too. So trust me, this works. Stories like this are normal for us to see in our clients. So I talk with confidence when I share these tips with you. Let's recap what we talked about today. Insulin resistance is the foundation across the diabetes landscape, and it exists on a spectrum. It can get better or it can get worse based on primarily what you eat. Excess dietary fat is the biggest driver of insulin resistance getting worse, and the low-fat, plant-based, whole food eating restores insulin sensitivity. When you eat this way, you can eat the carbs you love, fruit, potatoes, rice, even whole grain spaghetti, and watch your blood sugar stabilize as your insulin sensitivity improves. And finally, making a few swaps and changes can give you big results quickly. Your body wants to thrive just as much as you do. When you give it the right environment to heal, it will. I hope this video gave you the clarity and confidence you need to start reversing insulin resistance naturally. If you want the step-by-step plan, just comment the word training below and we'll send it right to you. It's 100% free and has helped thousands of people see dramatic changes, sometimes in just a few days. If this video helped you, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with somebody who is ready to improve their blood sugar. Until next time, keep those carbs high and that A1C low.